All right, good people. Thermaltake is trying to redesign how we think about cooling with their new concept they're calling the CTE form factor. CTE stands for centralized thermal efficiency. The whole concept behind it is that the traditional airflow is delivered from the front, so there's plenty of restrictions, but we're bypassing that with modern cases now. But now the GPU is very close to the power supply shroud. Not much airflow delivery from there, so it relies heavily on something that is being delivered from the front, and just one rear exhaust and a lot of top stuff. So CTE is rotating the motherboard 90 degrees with everything facing up, clearing up the stuff from the bottom, the stuff from the rear. That's the important bit where we have additional GPU cooling, all the fans targeting the GPU stuff without needing to rely on everything from the front. And so as a concept, it sounds really interesting. And we have 3 cases on display today. Let's check them out. But before that, of course, huge thanks to our CS sponsors. Without them, this wouldn't have been possible. And of course, Thermaltake is one of them. Thank you very much. So this is the interior of the new CTE C700. Comes in Air and TG model. So what we're told is that it's a hand-built prototype, but this is a really good demonstration of what they're trying to do here. So 3 140s at the bottom, at the back, at the front, and even on the side. So this thing will definitely support plenty of radiators, which I'm guessing Thermaltake is exactly the target audience for it. The motherboard, as you can see, is rotated 90 degrees, so we have that vertical air movement, but I'm really curious to test to see how all this additional airflow from the front and the back will contribute to our airflow. This is fine because we have an AIO here, so whatever cooling for the CPU is fine, but I'm really curious about all this additional GPU cooling from the back, especially because all the cards are getting big, getting hot, and this is one of the concepts of the CTE, the hero tower, the C750i. They will support a 420 radiator on the side, the front, the bottom, and the rear. The top will support dual 140s and 120s, so there's still plenty of exhaust happening and this whole vertical situation, but man, we're gonna have a lot of lateral air movement coming from the rear and the front. Really curious to test out. So this area right now is still in prototype staging. They want to release like this PCI bracket that is going to be low profile or slim, that only allows for 1 GPU installation. And this whole area, imagine it's cut off in half and allows you to put a radiator in push-pull configuration without impacting this whole space, which I think is going to be very beneficial. All the brackets in this enclosure are of course removable, so the bottom, the rear, the side one, I think that's a bracket as well, and of course the front, 2 thumb screws at the top, 2 thumb screws at the bottom, easy removable for all installation of your components. Nice. The CT cases will come with both Air and TG models, so ignore the little bendy situation over here. This is still a prototype, but nice porosity in the front panel, and once this is all removed, it sits on just like push pins, which is very easy to take apart. There is a fine dust filter. I don't want to break this, so I'm going to just put this back together, but there is a fine dust filter over there, which is very important because we're going to have so much positive air pressure, so a lot of dust buildup is going to be happening on these filters. And on the TG panel, the dust filter is slightly different to differentiate between the 2 models. Of course, the TG panel can be completely removed for additional airflow and actually looks really good without the TG installed. This is a dual chamber configuration. Of course, this is the rear panel, also easily removable to access all your fans, and we also have this fine dust filter over here. But this dual chamber configuration, of course, the power supply is on its side to give us plenty of space on the interior, maximize that airflow. And we have this little grommet over here that allows you to pass all the cables out of here, because of course the motherboard is facing up, and this is where most of your cables will come from. This is the CT concept from Thermaltake, trying to redefine what it means for efficient cooling and really brute forcing all the airflow, and especially for the back section. I think that's going to be the most contributing factor in improving performance. This thing, I think, will come with 3 CT 140mm fans, and availability in terms of the year is this year and sometime in April. The price is unknown, but the dual chamber configuration, of course, will allow you plenty of cable management at the back, lots of water cooling options, and for airflow as well. But what I'm really excited about the CTE is the shrinking aspect of it. because this is awesome, but this is only awesome for those really extreme situations. It's really more, for me especially, more interesting when things shrink down and utilize the CT concept, which is exactly what we're going to check out next. And now moving on to the smaller stuff, the biggest difference is of course the lack of all that side ventilation, but still we have 420 support at the rear, 420 at the front, slightly lower compatibility for coolers over here. So we have two 140s in here, but you can do, I feel like you can do 3 120s and only a single, actually no, there's two fans at the top. So still 240, two 140 fans at the top for all that exhaust. And this is more of my configuration. Still we have that CTE form factor with a 90-degree motherboard tray, that airflow from the front, from the rear. I do notice that we're going to have slightly more exposed area around where you're going to be plugging in all your USB devices and such. And of course, this whole thing is still slightly unrefined, but as a concept for the enclosure that is slightly slimmer versus the C750, I think this is going to be kind of what I'm going for. It's still a dual chamber design with the power supply at the rear. So cleaning up all your cables should not be an issue. And this is the CTE C700 Air. Of course, this comes with glass as well, but as a structure for the concept, this is the 700, and now the 500 is even more interesting. And the smallest form factor of the CT family is the T500. Comes in Air and TG models, so this is more of a traditional layout with the power supply at the bottom. So still we have some intake over here to help with that vertical air orientation, but still I think the biggest benefit in this design, of course, aside from having the GPU, is the direct airflow delivery from the rear. 3 140mm fans right there at the top. A single, actually, just a single fan at the top here for helping exhaust, and still traditional intake over here at the front. They're still allowing you to install 420mm radiators, so you can go with a crazy water cooling system. And man, I just really can't wait to test out what happens with all of our performance when we populate all the fans, and what happens with a cooling configuration like this where you are using an air cooler. So that is vertical, but then we're adding additional airflow from the front that doesn't follow the same airflow direction. So it'll be really interesting to see how these CT cases perform. And the last case here that is not a concept is this, the Series 500 TG ARGB. Futuristic design in the front panel, this dual contrast metal piece, I really like it. Interesting mesh pattern for ventilation, so lots of potential for airflow, good high airflow dust filter as well. On the interior, it's a bit more of just a kind of a standard mid-tower. So perforated power supply shroud at the bottom, standard motherboard support. We have an integrated GPU support bracket that has height variability. It does support a 420 radiator at the front, but this is Thermaltake we're talking about, but this case is more airflow focused, just because we don't have that much clearance at the front for your radiator clearance from that power supply shroud. It will come with 4 140mm fans, so out of the box, I feel like this is going to be a very well-performing enclosure, especially for $169. And I mean, overall, it seems like all-encompassing enclosure with this hinged tempered glass side panel, and also storage capacity that has not been forgotten. You can do 5 3¼ drive bays or 8 SSDs, which I think for this type of mid-tower is totally acceptable. The only thing is missing that many people have been asking for are 5¼ drive bays, but I mean, whatever, It will come in black and snow white models, and the most interesting thing about the interior is the rotatable PCI bracket that allows you to have standard horizontal GPU or rotate the bracket at the back and have a vertical GPU installation that is supported directly by the frame. All you have to do is buy the riser cable, but the little riser cable stand is included in here that is easily removable. So if you do go with vertical orientation, it is all possible. And for the rest of the cooling, lots of space for your CPU tower clearance and a 360 radiator support at the top. So all in all, seems like a nice rounded Series 500 from Thermaltake. Personally, I'm very excited about the CT direction and how we can translate all the cooling capacity from something so big like the C750 to the T500, still following the CT design with that centralized thermal efficiency of additional airflow from both the front, the bottom, and now the rear section. Let us know if you have any feedback for them, because all these are handmade samples and everything's been kind of collected together, so there's still some room for expansion and feedback. So if you saw anything that you'd love Thermaltake to do, let us know in the comments. I'm Dimitri. Thanks so much for watching. I will talk to you in the next video.